What could we do if we knew the future? First of all, getting hundreds on tests will be easy, and becoming wealthy is no far task. A future like that would be wonderful. However, life doesn't go that smoothly as his eyes widened when somebody was about to get hit by a car. Returning back to his senses, he tried to gather all the information back. He looked in front of him and saw the girl standing right there. The walk sign appeared, and before he muttered a word, she began to walk. He grabbed the girl, touching her boobs, screaming, "Wait!" He started to blush, and the girl blushed as well. He let go immediately and stuttered at saying he was trying to save her. She was disgusted at his touch, asking about the accident. A yellow car was going to smash her, however. She yelled he was a pervert. His face got slapped, and wondered if she never bumped into somebody. At least she didn't get it, he thought, while a car decided to zoom by him. His name was Ito Arase, with the ability to see the future. After nearly dying, he was granted these powers. It's rare for him to subconsciously use it, and it only shows a few minutes into the future. At home, he mentioned he wanted to die. His caregiver didn't want him to talk like that and expanded her love life towards high school men. Kuchi Ayako was her name, and she took him in when Ito had nobody else. She was hungover, and because of that, it wasn't as enjoyable. He was tasked to go pick up his uniform. He didn't care about picking it up and asked why she didn't tell him earlier when he went out. With the slap incident, he really didn't want to go out, but there he was. He got a vision of people playing a catch game. They would be stupid and bump into Ito and drop the toy in the water. He blamed Ito for being an imbecile. Not only the kids will blame him, the adults will too. He heard the kids running towards him and knew it was too easy. With ease, he stepped away. Now the boy won't drop the toy. These idiots happen to drop the toy still. Luckily, somebody labeling themselves as Big Sister would get it. She took off her shoes, and Ito asked if she was really going to jump. She enthusiastically wanted to get it. She looked like she was good at swimming. Well, she actually couldn't swim and was asking for help. A new problem arose, and he decided to fetch her out of the water. They were both on land but soaking wet. He shuddered at the thought of dying. They asked if they were all right, but she kept a positive attitude when she was drowning. The kids decided to part ways, and he wondered how the situation came to be. She turned around and decided to thank him, even though it may be late. She looked at his face, and he was blushing. "Clothes," he said. That word registered to her brain, then looked down. She hid herself and wouldn't usually wear such fancy clothes. She wore what she had left that was fresh, and she was thinking too far ahead. She questioned if he arranged those children to bump into to see her body. 2 accusations in a day is rough for our boy. Before she could talk more, she sneezed. He gave her his nice covering and wanted it to be returned to another era. Before it got even more complicated, he had to run away. She looked at him with such intent feelings. After she received help, she still doubted him, not the brightest. However, he reminded her of her brother. She hoped to see him again. At home, Ayako was wondering how he got all wet. He was planning to get a purification for his bad luck. The next day's morning at school, people were chatting. The black-haired girl from earlier wanted to hit our boy one more time. The pervert she wouldn't forgive at all. Somebody called out her name and asked why she was looking upset. She was pissed, exclaiming she was touched by a pervert. She stood up and yelled that she was touched in bright daylight. Very unforgivable, as if she found out who it was, she'll get him for her. She had something to say, but the teacher walked in the classroom. Kirihara entered the room, demanding the class to return to their seats. She was going to introduce a transfer student. He was told to come in, and even with seeing the future, life isn't smooth. Rather, the future vision was bringing troubles. He started to introduce himself to the class. However, the black-haired girl yelled he was a pervert. That was the girl who he saved, but slapped him, and he wondered why she was there. The teacher asked if something was wrong, leading up to a follow-up question. She darkly said she didn't know that pervert. The teacher started to think. She began to smell a romance comedy. He wondered what the teacher meant by romance comedy. Meanwhile, his teacher was wanting everybody to get along with him. His skeptic feelings started in the morning as well, because of his earlier interaction. About his seat made her think that it was time for people to change seats. Why? He thought. The teacher definitely planned them sitting together. Her glare was intense and directly at him. He was looking closer and usually would be happy sitting next to such a beauty, but first he had to stop the stares. He told her to stop, but she countered and talked about his molestation. It was all a misunderstanding, but she didn't believe it was. It was to save her, however, she didn't believe it. She wanted a better excuse, but it was the truth that he couldn't prove well. He was used to being alone in situations like these. Homeroom ended, and even if he can see the future, it isn't always beneficial. Somebody mentioned his morning was a disaster, and that caught his attention. The other person had his eyes shut, asking if he did something weird to Asagiri. His name was Sasauka Sosuke, and our protagonist asked if that girl was as famous as said. Of course she was due to her looks, and her unapproachable personality built a fan base for her. He couldn't say he just saw the future of saving her instead. He said he tripped and accidentally hugged her. Another girl was about to hear about the unlucky occurrence that happened. She asked if they had time, which alerted both their attentions. It was the girl who didn't know how to swim and still jumped into the water. Sosuke jumped up after seeing Kurase. Ito told him to calm down, but he couldn't because she was considered another beauty of the school. He was blushing and asked if she was there for him, but she wasn't. She thanked Ito for yesterday's event, and her name was Kurase Nanami, and Sosuke jumped our boy asking how he met so many beauties. She decided to say he saw her underwear, but their relationship was like that. Huh? Sosuke said. This dude yelled at Ito asking what happened in order for him to see her underwear, and he may have said it too loud. Somebody asked if he saw Nanami's underwear. Yuri was wrong, and she was about to exclaim something, but she concluded Ito was just a pervert. With disgust, she said he was the worst. Nanami wanted to clear things up, however. Yuri shut her down, not wanting to be near a pervert. He slapped his forehead, realizing it might be impossible to clear his mistakes up. Our boy wasn't so lonely, though, because Sosuke wanted to walk home with him. A long day for him, and rough for his first day. That teacher saw too many romance novels, making the day worse. He just wanted to clear up the situation with Asagiri, and he was told to properly apologize. It was simple to say, but not to do. A vision struck him on a field, and Sosuke was laughing that he was in the water. He was drenched with his bag floating on the water. He shuddered at the thought of falling into the field and asked Sosuke if there was a field nearby. He confirmed there was, and Ito decided to reroute. Meanwhile, Asagiri couldn't believe he would lay his hands on Nanami. She said he actually helped him, but Asagiri believed she was being deceived and he was just a pervert. He was kind yesterday, but she believed he only acted kind to see her underwear. She believed she should listen to his side, but there was no point listening to a pervert's side. They were both at the stop where she was molested. Nanami wondered why Ito did that. Asagiri believed they couldn't predict what a molester thinks, but she did remember he mentioned something about a yellow car. Nanami thought about the yellow car. Her dad, a detective, was talking about an incident yesterday. A yellow sports car crashed into a utility pole because it was too fast. Asagiri had many thoughts debating whether what he said was true. If everything was true, then Ito was saving her from the car. She looked shy, believing it was a coincidence. Ito helped her. She realized if he wasn't there to pull her away, then she would have experienced something not nice. A passerby yelled at Arase if anything was wrong. Asagiri immediately turned around, recognizing that voice. The two boys were walking in the same direction, and our boy happened to cross paths with her. What a strange coincidence. Next chapter, they teleported straight to a cafe. A tense aura was between the molester and the victim. He wondered why, or rather how, it ended up like this. He just wanted to change the future. Flashing back to the past, the group was debating to grab some tea, and Nanami wanted to go. Asagiri was startled, realizing she did have something to ask. She boldly said she wanted something sweet to eat. Our boy was looking at the side, and Sosuke wanted a conversation to occur. The boys started to whisper, and it was Ito's chance to apologize. It was true that he wanted to apologize to her, but he asked why this cafe. The place was nice, and the manager was exceptional. The location she chose was even worse. At that cafe, he didn't want to apologize. It was because his caregiver, Ayako, was watching. She ran the cafe herself, and he lived upstairs. Ito, eyes closed with a sweat drop running down his cheek, was listening to how well the cafe's food looked. Nanami became a Food Wars judge when she ate that piece of parfait. He was looking down, hands up to hold his head, and the air was purified in cuteness. Unfortunately, Asagiri was mad over the fact he was looking down. She told him to stop staring, however. He wasn't even looking and made a rebuttal. She was still upset over the fact he hugged her with a reason she didn't believe. It's been a common occurrence where they would just bicker with each other. School life would be more annoying if their relationship were to deteriorate even more. The manager watching was in a situation that he didn't want. "Asagiri!" he yelled. This alarmed her. With his head low, he decided to apologize straight in front of her face. Asagiri couldn't believe such an act was done. He meant his apology, and she looked like she felt bad for him. Asagiri had one question, which was why did she grope her yesterday? This was an attempt to save her, but she didn't see a car passing at that time. She was aware that a yellow car was speeding and asked how he knew. He didn't know if it crashed, but he just confirmed it but didn't know how to explain it. Kusuke vouched for a yellow car speeding all over the place. He made the worst excuse heard from mankind with a lack of confidence. She was not believing his ploy, and it may be a bit desperate on his part. She would let it slide. The answer wasn't convincing, and she needed to judge whether he was truly a pervert. She looked at him and told him to not reveal his true colors. It hit him that the misunderstanding never cleared at all. He would also have to treat her to the cafe's parfaits 10 whole times for forgiveness over that hug. An apology once wasn't enough, and she said her body wasn't cheap, which could be misunderstood. While they were bickering, somebody was laughing. Nanami was laughing and was glad they made up. Well, it seemed like it was resolved to our other male companion. Sosuke asked Ito where his house was, and he said it was right where he was. Hopefully, a peaceful school life started, and Ayako was looking at them. It was time for the three of them to leave the nice establishment and return home. Our side boy wanted to walk the girls back, but they refused his offer. The girls couldn't believe that the cafe was his house, and Sosuke was depressed. Asagiri was a bit upset over the thought of seeing him at her favorite spot was bad. Somebody called out to the group. The manager was glad to be on time and meet them. They asked if they forgot something, but instead received a thanks. She was thankful he made friends on the first day of school, and she didn't think that would happen. He had a complicated family situation, and Asagiri didn't mean to be friends with him. Thankfully, Nanami and Sosuke were willing to be kind to him. Asagiri hesitantly agreed to it. Leaving the cafe open was a question, but Ito was working there. It was his first time working there. At the cafe, he was struggling with no prior training.